Ryan Neiman, Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, today's newsmakers, and you. The Morning Majority, 630.
It's 8:37, and we are back, and we've got my great boss and colleague from the Weekly Standard on the line. He's also a Fox News All-Star, Mr. Fred Barnes. Thanks for being on the show.
Well, I'm glad to be here, Mary Catherine. You've added another element to your multitasking now: radio, TV, print, internet.
The Mary Catherine brand is expanding.
It is.
Exponentially, Fred.
I'm trying my best, and these guys are teaching me quite a bit. I wanted to ask you about a little bit of news on the Weekly Standard site from our fellow colleague, Bill Kristol. He wrote yesterday that he's heard from a couple sources that Rudy Giuliani is going to run. What do you think of that, and could Rudy make it happen if he went all in somewhere like New Hampshire?
Well, he'd have to make it in New Hampshire. He's not going to try to make it in Florida again like he did in 2008, which was a strategy that was a complete flop. Yeah, look, Rudy looks at the race, and look, he's been interested all along in this. He's talked to people over the last, all since 2008, whether he should run again. And he looks and he sees it being wide open, and so he'd like to get in. I think Bill's correct about this, that he is going to run, and why not? What has he got to lose?
Well, and another 2012 possible contender, not in the race yet. You saw the Palin film, I believe, this flattering film, The Undefeated, about her tenure in Alaska as governor. Tell me what you thought of it and how it might work as a tool for her advantage in the race.
Well, it works to her advantage. It's a 2-hour film. It's the early part's about Alaska, then there's about 45 minutes on her as governor, and then it goes into after McCain picked her as his running mate. And it holds your interest pretty well. I mean, a 2-hour documentary, you can go to sleep in these things.
Yeah, you can.
Watch out. And but this one concentrates on her as governor and points out what a strong reformer she was in taking on the oil companies and so on. That's something most people don't know. Now, there are two problems here. One, you have to get enough people to watch the film, not just the people who already like her. And two, she has to run for president for a film to have any effect on her presidential effort. So, I don't know whether either one of those will happen.
Fred, Brian Wilson, how are you, bud?
Hi, Brian.
Hey, listen, another 2012 question for you. I just saw some stories that are coming out of the Lone Star State.
Indeed.
Which they're talking now about the increased possibility that Rick Perry, the governor of a state where they've had a tremendous economic success story, might actually get into the race, that he's really pondering. He's got some state legislative stuff he's still got to work through before he can think about it seriously. But would that change the dynamic of this race if someone of Perry's stature jumped in?
No, I think it would. Here's a guy who would start with a huge chunk of votes at the convention for him. That just how many Texas has, and he would do well in the Southwest. You can think of a lot of states where he would do well. Southern states, and pick up the Huckabee states. Huckabee won, I think, 7 of them in 2008. So, and it is significant. Look, I've even talked to Perry about this. He had no interest in running for president. He said that up until the last 2 weeks. He said that routinely. And now he looks around. Look, it's just like Giuliani. Perry looks at the race and sees it's wide open, and nobody's. There is no front runner. All the people out there have one problem or another, and why not run, or why not take a real look at it?
What do you make of Anthony Weiner? I want to get your take on that. And do you think we have a bet in this room whether or not he'll make it to Saturday morning as a member of the United States Congress?
I suspect he won't. Now the pressure is really peaking right now, and if he hopes to recover at all, sometimes you can drop out, and years later you can come back, but he needs to drop out and go to a rehab center and a variety of things.
Do the Tiger Woods go away for a month and then hold a press conference, apologize to everybody again?
I think he's in a completely untenable position, particularly after, I don't know whether you all read all the excerpts from his emails that the New York Post ran 2 pages of them yesterday, and I don't think you can survive that.
Yeah, I don't think he can survive it either. That's why I think he's got to go. Mary Catherine believes that, though, he could pull a.
Well, I'm just holding the other side of the bet for fun over here. I think he could. I think he could Charlie Sheen it out, as I say, and just be crazy and hold on to the end of his term. He could. He could just say, "I'm not leaving."
He could, and I think he's been inclined to do that so far, it would be a tough re-election, and he'd be a pariah in Congress for the next year and a half.
Let me ask you about the debate coming up on Monday. We got 7 GOP candidates who are going to be there. What are you looking to see? Does this matter at this point? Is anybody going to jump out here?
Well, the last one didn't matter,
right.
Unless you're Herman Cain, and he made a strong impression on a very small audience. This one may have a bigger audience, and I didn't even watch the last one, but I'm going to watch this one because I'm interested in how well, particularly Tim Pawlenty does. He has this new economic program, sounds a lot like Reaganomics,
right.
and to see he is. He needs the visibility. He needs to thrust himself forward and not. Most people don't even know who he is, and he's a very vague presence. He needs to really become a much stronger presence out there. That's the main thing I'm interested in.
Are you surprised that Michelle Bachmann's team kind of went after Sarah Palin, and Ed Rollins was the one who made the comments, but it came from the Bachmann camp, and she doesn't seem to be backing down from those comments?
Look. There is not. I can't think of anything more ill-fitting than Michelle Bachmann and Ed Rollins. Ed Rollins is sort of your ultimate establishment Republican consultant. I would take bets now on how long he will last at her campaign.
Okay.
It will be not measured in months, and maybe not even in weeks.
So maybe Weiner will make it longer than Ed Rollins then.
I hadn't thought of that. Who will quit first? And I think it was dumb on Bachmann's part. Look, she's appeals to the grassroots Republican base, the Tea Party people. Ed Rollins can't help her there.
Yeah. All right, Fred. Great to have you on the show. We always appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thanks for dropping by, Fred.
All right. Bye-bye.
Fred Barnes, executive editor of the Weekly Standard. By the way, so what our bet is that if Weiner leaves, then you have to get a mohawk, right?
Oh, we didn't make any extra bet, but I will. If we made a bet, I would pay up. I'll stay on this side of the bet. I feel like the odds are definitely against me, so the payout should be bigger.
All right, we'll have to talk about that. 8:44 on WM.